Alright, listen up, strap yourself in, we're building something cool today. Josh, what are we gonna build? Good question. We're gonna build a YouTube title generator. It's gonna be really great. So there are gonna be two input fields, right? You're gonna be able to input a YouTube alias. So those are the unique identifiers that YouTube thought of. They're quite recent. And then you can also put in a topic. And what our generator will do, it will generate a title that is similar to the titles of the YouTube channel that you entered for the topic that you have input. So for example, if we wanted to input something like drinking coffee while coding, which is an example I'm gonna do in the actual video, in the style of Fireship, which some of you probably know, which is a popular coding YouTube channel, it will create a title for that topic in the style of Fireship, or Theo from ping.gg, or any YouTuber that you want. Pretty much you can generate a title for the topic that you input. It's a great project. It's really fun to code. And I say we get started. There's a GitHub repo link in the description if you want to check it out. And let's dive right into the project. All right, here we are. And I've got the project open here on the left. So let me show you what we're gonna build. So yarn dev. And let's go to the browser, go to localhost 3000. And oh wow, this looks really weird in Firefox. Ah, there we go. There's the image. Okay. Well, that still looks a bit weird. Maybe because I'm zoomed in so much. Yeah, okay, that looks like Chrome. Okay. And essentially, maybe I can zoom in a bit so you can see better. Essentially, what we're doing is we can enter an alias right here. And then, oh, I didn't change that. That should say like your topic and then a topic here. And then we can click generate title. So if we go to YouTube, and, search for any alias that we want. So for example, we can go for Fireship. Let's check that out. Go to Fireship, and I think it's at Fireship, and we can just copy the alias in here without the @ because the @ is already predefined in the input, and then we can enter a topic. So for example, if we had any topic we want to make a video about, like rich text editor with Slate.js, which is a package to build rich text editors, we can click generate title, and that will generate the title with this topic in the voice of Fireship. So similar to previous Fireship titles that you can see right here. And okay, so the result is from 0 to pro, exploring Slate.js for rich text editors. That's pretty cool. Similarly, we can go for another channel. So we can go for, I'm not sure, like ping.gg, this guy. We can copy the @ I think his name is Theo, and we can have the same topic, and let's generate a title in his style. So the last titles were automatic events in NextJS for free. I was wrong about Tailwind. Let's see. Rich text editing heaven with Slate.js, it changes everything. So you can generate titles in certain people's voices, how they would create the title. And I think that is really cool. And let's get into building this, because really it can be done in like 10 or 20 minutes. And then I'll go over the styling as well, just in case you want that. And here in the console, you can see the previous titles that we fetched. It's 10. I limited it to 10. So the title you see right here, this one is based on the last 10 titles of the alias that we enter. And yeah, I say we get started. So I'm going to move the finished project over here on my left. And then we can enter into the CMD, go to the desktop, and initialize a new project to do this. Now I'm going to use the create T3 app for this, because that's going to set up tRPC for us. And I recommend doing that if you want to expand on the project later. However, if you just want to get this project as is done and don't really want to expand on it, working in NextJS 12 or 13 without tRPC is just fine. So I'm going to run npx create T3 app at latest, because that's going to initialize with tRPC version 10. And if you don't know, tRPC is a tool that helps us create APIs in Next.js in a type-safe way. So that means when you work from the front end, you can see the types of the back end. So we're working in TypeScript. That's essentially what tRPC does, but you don't have to follow along in tRPC. As I said, you can follow along just fine in regular NextJS and even JavaScript if you want. Okay, so title gen 2, let's name it, because I've already got the title gen. We'll be working in TypeScript. And by the way, if you click JavaScript, it won't even let you. In this case, we just need tailwind and tRPC. We don't need Prisma or NextAuth for this. We are gonna initialize a new repo, but we're not gonna run npm install. It's gonna be really fast because it didn't run npm install. And then we can open that in Visual Studio Code and run yarn. So instead of npm install, we're gonna run yarn because I prefer yarn as the package manager. It's gonna create a yarn.log and install all the dependencies. And then we can start working in this project. So I'm gonna stop the server from the other one just so it doesn't interfere with this project. And I say we get started in the index file. So index.tsx right here. Okay, what do we have? We have the standard index file. There are some errors apparently, but they're gonna get fixed in a second here. Let me delete the prettier config. We don't need that. There we go. Okay, it created the yarn.log. That means the install is done and the errors are gone as well. Perfect. Let me just restart TypeScript just to make sure. Okay, and let's get started. I'm gonna do the styling at the very end. So right now we're gonna create the bare bones functionality, and then only if you're interested, we can go over the styling like at the end of the video, if you want to bother actually styling this out a bit. Okay, so essentially what we want is 2 input fields, right? So if VS Code got done loading, which is doing right now, then we could actually use the emmet, which would be really helpful. There we go. Okay, input type text. And we are gonna store this input in state. So we're gonna do client side first and then the server side logic second. So we're gonna call the state input, set input. We are not gonna type this out like that because we're gonna infer the type from the object that we have right here. And we need an alias, and we also need a topic. And that's everything. We're gonna initialize those as empty strings. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see better. There we go. And now this input is gonna be a controlled input. So that means the value is gonna be input.alias. And then we are gonna create the onChange handler. So onChange, we're gonna receive an event and we're gonna set the input and receive the previous input as the first argument. And then return an object implicitly by having these parentheses and an object syntax spread in the previous object. And then we're also going to have the topic. Oh no, this was the alias as the e.target.value. And why is this throwing so many? Why is this so red right now? Is it maybe because there's an extra bracket there? No. Why is this giving us so many errors? Hold up. onChange. Wait, what happens if I remove this? Oh, we forgot the equal sign. There we go. Okay, onChange, we get the previous. And why is this saying, oh, because we need to import the state and now it infers the type for the previous, the object we typed out above. Great. Now the second input we can create, it's gonna be the same story. So we're gonna have a controlled input again. That means we're gonna have input.topic, this time as the value, and then the onChange is gonna be equal to a function that receives an event, and we're gonna say set input to whatever it was previously, so spread in the previous, and we want to change the topic to e.target.value, which is, so the e.target.value, if you don't know, is whatever the user has currently typed in. So if the input field says hello, then the topic would be hello. That's how we're creating a controlled input. And then we just want a button that says go, that is of type button. Now that button is not going to do anything yet, but let's take a look at how this looks. And it is gonna be really ugly, I think, because we didn't worry about styling at all. Yes, it's really ugly. We can't even see the input fields. So let's change one very little thing about the input fields. Let's give it a border of black, just so we can see them. But as I said, styling will come after we've implemented all the functionality. Okay, there we go. We've got the inputs, we've got the button. Now what should that button do when we click go? The thing is, that's where the backend logic comes in. So in tRPC, we can go to a file called example. If you are following along in regular JavaScript, you would create an API route at this point, a separate API route. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it YouTube. And we don't need any of that. And YouTube is going to be and I'm going to disable GitHub Copilot here, a public procedure. And in here, we're going to have an input. And what do we want in input? Well, a z.object. So that means a z.object. By the way, what I'm doing right now is just for the full stack type safety. If you're following along in NextJS, you would just want to receive two things as your API route parameters and pass them with a post request in the body. So JSON.stringify these two values right here and pass them to your API route somehow. That's what I'm doing right now in Zod. Okay, the z.object is going to have the topic, which is a z.string. And then we also want an alias, which is also going to be a z.string. And then we're going to have a mutation. Now that mutation is going to be an arrow function. We're going to mark it as asynchronous. And in here, we can have access to whatever we passed in the input. So we can destructure the input. And this is where the actual API route logic will go in tRPC v10 or in NextJS normal API routes. We don't even have an example here. It doesn't matter. This is where your logic would go. Okay. In the mutation, what do we want to happen? Well, the thing is, one little thing that we want to do is web scraping, right? We want to go to YouTube and scrape the titles or use the YouTube API, but I'm not sure if it provides titles for a channel. The thing is, if I were to show you how to do this right now, YouTube would not be happy because web scraping is kind of a gray zone. So I'm going to link you a video that explains how to do this in detail with Puppeteer, which is what we're going to use. So we're going to say yarn add or npm install Puppeteer. That is a tool that is very easy to use. And this is going to be the only challenge that is kind of up to you in this video, because I literally cannot show you how to do this or the video would get taken down, which is very unfortunate, but it's very easy. It takes like 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to link the video that shows you how to do it, and then you can apply that same logic to YouTube. It's quite straightforward, but let me outline what we're going to do. So we're going to open the browser, then we're going to navigate to a YouTube channel. So that means we could have a template string and input the alias that we got from the input and then /videos. That's what we want to navigate to with Puppeteer. And then we want to accept the cookies, and then we want to wait for the selector that is for every video, and then select the title, which has a very convenient ID from the YouTube titles, and then save that data in an array. So get all titles with query selector all, and then map or actually push all titles into array. And at the end of that, we will have an array cons video data, which is equal to a video data type that we're going to create together. That is going to be an array. And the type video data is going to be the following. It's going to be a title that has a string or null or undefined. And that is going to be an array right here. And that is all the video data we're going to have. So in my case, that would be just an empty array right now. Make sure to watch the video that I linked you. It's really going to take like a couple of minutes. It's very straightforward if you follow the steps I explained in that video. And follow these steps. I literally, sadly, can't show you how to do it. But after you've done that, you've got the video titles, and now we can continue with the video titles. Okay, we've got the video titles, then we're gonna close the browser. So close Puppeteer browser. And now we've got all the video titles. So we've got an array of something like title 1 and then title 2. right? And then we're going to have 10 of them. So we're going to limit them to 10. And we do that by saying const titles is equal to whatever we have as the data. So we could either say data.slice or we can say video data.slice. As long as you got 10 titles, you'll be golden. So in my case, const titles, I'm going to initialize this as an empty array. But in your case, that would be all the YouTube titles we get from the video with Puppet here. Okay, and now we can go ahead and get to the logic of how do we create a similar title. And we're going to do that with openai, one of the most capable AIs in the world, in my opinion. Probably not only in my opinion. And for that, we're going to create a prompt first. So the prompt is going to be essentially what do we want the AI to do, and we need to tell it what to do in natural language. And we do that by saying, I thought about a good prompt for this. The following is a list of YouTube video titles. After reading the titles, and let me zoom out a bit here on my left because that's where I've prepared it. After reading the titles, you are given a topic to then write a similar title for. There we go. Then we're going to create 2 new lines, and then we're going to say titles, colon, and then here we're going to insert the titles. Now it won't know which type this is because we didn't type this out. So we could say a string array because that's what it will be in your case, a string array. We have inserted the titles and we are gonna map over the titles. So titles.map for each title. We want the title.title. And that is throwing an error because that is not a string array, but a video data array. There we go. Okay. By the way, the exact syntax that I'm typing here, you don't need to copy this. This is just a guideline for you. Essentially what you want is just an array of 10 video titles that you get with Puppet here. That's it. Whatever you call them is totally up to you. This is just how I like to do it. Okay, for each title, which is of type video data, we want the t.title. There we go. And then we are gonna join them together. So .join, which is a method we can use on arrays. And what are we gonna join them with? Well, the new line element. And there we go. We can close the template string. And then we can say new line, similar title for topic. And then in here, we're going to insert the input dot topic dot to uppercase. So it fits right in with the uppercase we have mentioned right here. Oh, no, not to lowercase, to uppercase. There we go. Invoke that function, close off the parentheses, and there we go. Okay, so what are we doing? Essentially, we are telling the AI, and I can show you how this literally looks on openai. So let me log in with Chrome here on my left. We can go to the playground. There we go. Essentially, what we're saying here is, you know, the following is a list, and I can zoom in a bit so you can see better, blah, 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 whatever we said right here. And then we are mapping over the titles. So we've got the, you know, title 1, title 2, title 3. Then we're saying in the double new line right here, similar title for topic, and then inserting the topic. So why are we doing this in uppercase? Because, well, the AI is kind of like a human, right? If it reads everything is in all uppercase, then it's like, okay, maybe this is important. And so it will make sure that it's a similar title for this topic. So we're just making very sure that it understands what we're wanting it to do. And then in here, we are inserting the topic. So whatever we've typed into our input field, so whatever goes into the input field will go right here. For example, what I've typed in earlier, rich text editor with Slate.js. And then we've got the colon. There we go. And then the AI output will be in the new line. So we can get the output if we actually work with the openai API. And the way we do that is by yarn adding openai which is an npm package that we can use to communicate with OpenAI. And the next thing we're going to do is go to your environment variables, and this is the wrong one, your environment variables, and add the OpenAI API key that you get from your OpenAI account. Now, if you've never created an OpenAI account, it's totally free, and if you sign up, you'll get like a $18 credit, I think, which is more than enough. Like 1,000 tokens for the API cost you like 2 cents of that grant, so you can use it for free for months, and you don't have to pay afterwards. You don't need credit card information, nothing. It's very good. It allows you to communicate with an amazing AI. And I'm going to do that as OpenAI API underscore key is equal to, and then I'm going to insert my API key right here, which you can find under your account, and then manage or view API keys. That's where it is. And I'm going to insert that right here and be right back after I've inserted it. There we go. Okay, and now we've got the prompt ready, and that means we're all ready to go to communicate with the AI. So we're going to say const res is equal to await, and now we want to call OpenAI. And for that, we need a configuration first. So we're going to say const configuration. So this is the configuration we're going to use to communicate with OpenAI specifically, is new configuration that we get from the OpenAI package. That is going to be an object. Inside of the object, that requires an API key. That is going to be process.env. Whatever you called your API key, I called mine OpenAI underscore API underscore key. There we go. And then we're going to say const OpenAI is equal to a new OpenAI API and pass the configuration as the argument. There we go. And that means now we can say await OpenAI. And you see, if we type a dot, we get a bunch of methods on this OpenAI object, and we are going to use create completion and pass that a couple of data points, or we're going to pass it one object to be specific. Now the model is going to be text DaVinci 003, which is their newest and best model that we're going to use. Now we're also going to pass the prompt. Then the temperature is going to be 1, so that means the temperature is a scale from 0 to 1, and it just means how creative can the AI be. So if it was 0, the AI would stay very close to whatever we said in the prompt. It would not be creative. It would literally just do that and be very repetitive. If we're saying 1, which is the highest value for the temperature, it means be very original. You can deviate from the original prompt. We are allowing it a lot of creativity. Then max tokens, we're going to pass the default value of 256. Nothing special there. It will never get to that length anyways, because it's just going to generate one title. Top here is going to be 1, frequency penalty is going to be 0, and the presence penalty is also going to be 0. By the way, you don't need to all type them out. You could also go to the playground on OpenAI, my prompt, and if you've gotten your prompt, you can go to view code, then Node.js, and you can copy the code from here. And this is the code that is exactly what you typed in the prompt, so that is very helpful to know. And okay, we can expect the response from OpenAI, and then the title we're going to get from that is res.data.choice. res.data.choices at the index of 0 dot text. And now you probably want a proper error handling if that doesn't exist by wrapping this in a try catch. I'm not going to worry about that because I know the answer is going to be there. Just to make sure though, you like if you wanted to do this as a production project, you would probably want this inside of a try catch block. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to fill in the code I've written previously with Puppeteer. As I said, it only takes you 2 to 3 minutes to do yourself, and at this point you've probably already done it. So I'm going to insert the code from my left and then be right back and close this file down, because as I said multiple times now, unfortunately I cannot show you the code. Okay, I've inserted the code into the tRPC mutation. If you're following along in NextJS, that would go into your API route. We're working with Puppeteer there, and now we are back on the front end. And here we can now configure the router. We put it into the example file. Let's change the name to YouTube router. YouTube router. Then we can go into our app, and in here we can say YouTube is going to be YouTube, and I think I called it example. Yeah, it's still named example router. I don't want to go back into the file right now because then I would show you the Puppeteer config, which I can't. So I'm just going to leave it as example router, but you would change the name if you're following along in tRPC. And now we can say the tRPC is, we're going to worry about the destructuring later, is equal to tRPC.YouTube.YouTube, kind of a weird naming, .useMutation. There we go. And we are going to destructure the mutate, which is essentially just calling the API route. And in the mutate, we can pass the data that we want to pass, which is in this case the state values. So onClick is equal to a arrow function. And then here we're going to say mutate, and we can see the data we're going to pass. That's the beauty of tRPC. As the topic, we want to pass input.topic. And as the alias, we're going to pass input.alias. There we go. Okay, so that means if the server is still running, which it's not, we can restart that, go into our browser and reload localhost 3000. There we go. And now maybe we should insert placeholders, by the way, just so we know which input is which. Placeholder, it's going to be alias, there we go. And this placeholder is going to be topic. There we go. Okay, now we're going to put the alias in here. So let's say, what was it? Fire ship, I think it was. For the topic, let's say, what's the topic? Christmas coding, because it's about to be Christmas. Okay. Now we are going to receive data from that when the mutation is done. So we're just going to render that out. We're going to say if there's data, actually let's do this properly. If there is data, we're going to render out a p tag, your result, then put the data here. And if there's no data, then we are going to return null. Okay, there we go. Let's type in the @fireship Christmas coding. Let's click go. Let's see what happens. Go into the console. The mutation is gone outbound. So that's how we know it's working. And it's gone back. So we fetched the titles and gotten this back from the mutation. And the result is Christmas coding, make the season brighter with code. That's pretty cool. That's the logic of our application pretty much done. What's another topic we could have? Like, drinking coffee while coding. At least that's what I like to do. You can press go, and I'll drink my coffee while it loads. Brewing up productivity, coding with coffee. That's really cool. Okay, great. I'm very satisfied with that. And at this point, that's the entire logic done. As easy as that. We just fetch the titles with Puppeteer, pass them to openai to create a similar title. And now we are going to worry about the styling, because as you can see, the styling was way better in the original version. Now, if you don't care about the styling, we're pretty much done at this point. Next thing is just going to be tailwind. And by the way, at this point, if you're still watching, please comment below if you think that it's worth for me going over the styling. Like, do you care about the styling? If so, I will continue to do it in the next videos. And if nobody cares about the styling, then I might as well, I guess, not do it, right? But in this case, we're gonna do it. So let's make this more beautiful. And to get started, I'm gonna copy one image from the public folder, which is a huge image that I've just gotten somewhere from Google, I believe. It's a picture of the Milky Way that we're going to use as a background image. Okay, so let's get started with the styling. We're going to have a main div in here. It's going to be absolute inset of 0, so that means top, left, bottom, and right are going to be 0. then flex items dash center, justify dash center, and bg of black /50. So that means with 50% opacity. And here we're going to have an image that comes from NextJS. So it's going to be optimized, which has a class name of -z-10 and a source of the Milky Way that we've just copied over. So that is going to be /milky-way.jpg in my case, and whatever you call your image in your case. The alt is going to be Milky Way. And one property that we're going to pass is the fill property, which replaces the old legacy behavior of layout fill. Okay, next thing, div with a class name of relative width of full and max width of large. Now in this div, we're going to put another div with a class name of relative z-10 flex column, then item center, gap of 10, rounded medium with a border. The border is going to be indigo-900/50. And let me check if I forgot something. Yes, I did. After that, there's going to be a background of black /30, padding X of 28, padding Y of 16, and a backdrop blur of small. There we go. Okay, we've got that done. Now let's go over here. In here, we're going to have our main title. So that's going to be an H2. It's going to be super title v1. That's what I decided to call it, with a class name of text2xl, font-medium, and a text of white. There we go. Great, now we can get started on the input fields, make them look better. First one is going to be a div with a class name of widthFull. And by the way, this is all going to be in a GitHub repo as well. I'm going to push this up just without the web scraping code, because I'm not sure if I can show that. I don't think I can show that, so that's why. But the rest is going to be here for you. So HTML for, I don't think this really matters. So I'm going to leave this empty. Let's have a class name of block, text small, font dash medium, text gray of 200. Okay, and this label is going to say alias. There we go. Then after the label, we're going to have a div, the class name of margin top 1, flex rounded medium, and shadow small. And in here, we're going to have the span that's going to contain the at that we want to infer for the input, with a class name of inline flex, item center, rounded left of medium, border, a border right of 0, border gray, and the gray is gonna be 700, a background of gray 800, padding X of 3, text gray 300, and small, like on small devices, we want the text to be small. There we go. Okay. That's the span that we're going to infer for the input. And then below here, we're going to put the input that we've already created, which is going to be the alias input. And paste it right here. Just change a bit of the class name. So the class name is going to be block, a width full, minimum width of 0, a flex 1, rounded none, so no border radius, rounded R medium, so we only want the right side to be rounded, because we also had this left side rounded, we want the right side rounded in this case. The border gray of, let me see, 700, border gray 700, background gray of 800, padding X of 3, padding Y 2, then a text white, a focus border indigo 500, and then also a focus ring, and that ring is gonna be also indigo 500. I'm gonna show you in a second what this does. Essentially, when we tap into it with our mouse, the focus is gonna appear in the ring. This one right here, it's gonna make the input look a bit better, and then on small devices and upwards, we want the text to be small. That's all we have for the input. Yep, there we go. Okay, we've done the input, and now let's continue. with the next input. And for this, it's going to be a bit easier. So less styling for this one. We're also going to have a div with a width of full. The label we can copy from up here. There we go, just copy and paste that. Okay, and below we're going to have a div with a class name of margin top -1. And we also want an input field in here, and we can just copy this input. And on the input, we're going to have some class names, which are going to be block width of full, minimum width of 0, flex 1, rounded medium, border of gray 700, background gray 800, padding on the x-axis of 3, on the y-axis of 2. We want the text to be white. There's gonna be a focus with a border indigo 500, a focus ring indigo 500, and then also a text small for small devices and upwards. And that is everything done. Those are the inputs. Now we just want the button, right? The button that lets us submit. So we can just copy this button and its functionality and then change the class name just for styling. So class name is going to be, I changed my keyboard to English again. Class name is going to be margin top of 6, then margin right of, actually we can leave that away, we don't need that. Flex height of 10, width of full, item center, and justify center, so that's going to put the text that we have in there in the center, a rounded of full, and then we want a couple more properties, which is border dash 2, border dash transparent, so we're going to have it transparent initially, and then background indigo of 700, padding Y4, padding X6, text small, font is gonna be medium, text is gonna be white, transition, so when we hover over it, it's gonna be smooth. Then whenever we hover over it, the border is gonna be 2. Whenever we hover over it, the border is gonna be indigo 700. And also when we hover over it, the background is gonna be indigo 900. Whenever it's disabled, we're gonna have a cursor not allowed. Also, whenever it's disabled, and this is gonna be a long class name, by the way. Also, when we have it disabled, we want the background to be white. Also, when it's disabled, we want the text to be gray 600, and when it's disabled, we want on the hover event to be the border to be gray 200. And on medium, we want a margin top of 0. And last thing, last property on medium, we want a width of fit. There we go. Okay, I know that was a long class name, but we've done it. And then one more thing we want to destructure from the mutation is the isLoading. That's one thing that you don't have to worry about when using tRPC. So whenever this route is loading, this is going to be kind of like state updated for you. If you're using a NextJS route, you would have to do this normally with state. So we can conditionally render the text in the button. So generating whenever it is loading, and if it's not loading, then generate title. There we go. And the last thing we're going to have is below the button, whenever we've received the data that we've done right here, we're going to make that a bit prettier. So whenever we have the data, we're going to render out a div. And if not, we're going to render null. So on here, we're going to put a div and also close that. There we go. This div is going to have a class name of flex, width of full, flex column, items, center gap of 1, text center, and text dash white. There we go. And we're going to have one span in here that's going to have a class name of text large and font medium. That's going to display our result title, so your result, colon, and then in the next span right here, right below it, we're going to display the data. It's just going to have one class name, which is going to be text base. So we want this a bit smaller. And then here, we're just going to put the data. There we go. And for some decoration, we can have one more div. I swear that's the last element we're going to have in here. One more div that can be self-closing. It's just gonna make everything look way better. Class name is gonna be custom gradient, so one we're gonna create in a second. Absolute inset of 0 and -z -10. Now, where does this custom gradient come from? We're gonna go into the globals and paste it in. I've got it here in my CSS. This is the gradient we're gonna use. Gonna make the whole thing look a lot better. Now you can just copy paste this from me if you want, from the GitHub repository. And now let's see what happened to our project. Let's go into here, reload. And there we go. That looks way better. Maybe not perfect. Like, we could probably turn down the opacity on the gradient. So let's say opacity 50. It's a bit much. There we go. Super title v1. Now we can just paste the alias in here, the topic in here. Functionality is the exact same, but it just looks way better. Okay. Oh, and one more thing we can have on the button. That is gonna be the disabled. So when should it be disabled? Well, when we don't have an input.alias, or when we don't have an input.topic. There we go. Okay, save that. And that is gonna disable our button by default. And there we go. So let's type fireship in here. Let's say Christmas coding again. Enter whatever topic you would like right here. Click generate. And now we can, oh, that looks a bit weird. We just have a quote, your result. Why is it doing that? Are we returning? Okay, I'm probably returning this wrong from the backend. That I can't really change it right now, because then I'd have to go into the backend code, but that would be an easy fix. Just remove that from the return in the backend. You probably won't even have this issue. And there we go. We can see the mutation got outbound. We got it back, and we are generating this YouTube title for this topic according to the alias we passed in here with complete styling. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I think this is a really cool project. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. I wish you a lot of fun with this idea and this project, and have a good one. Bye bye.